you had have asked me 2 years ago, would have I ever written a book on mental illness, I would have gone, you're kidding, blokes don't talk about that stuff. And I would have been right. And somehow through a story which would probably take more than the hours allotted today, this whole project came about. And it's very exciting. And it's just a privilege to be able to help and impact in people's lives. So today, I hope you really enjoy it. I'll give you a little bit of background about me, because it's been quite a journey. It's been a journey that's had some very high mountaintops and some very, very deep and very dark valleys at times. But I'm very happy to be here and to be living a life that truly is a life beyond mental illness. Strange things happened to me the other day. We were heading to church. Now, I'm actually a pastor of a church over in Coffs Harbour, and so we're heading to church, which is sort of what we do. And I don't know if anyone's ever woken up with a song in their brain. Yeah, you know how when you wake up and there's a song in your brain? Well, this was really scary, because I woke up and it was Miley Cyrus. Yeah, I kid you not, it was Miley Cyrus in my brain. And this is Sunday morning, and we're getting ready, and eventually we're heading off to church. I got a couple of my daughters in the car, and I said to them, give me another song to get this out of my brain. So my youngest daughter thought it was a great opportunity to lift the bar and go for High School Musical songs, which was going to take it to a whole new level. But it was quite funny. But the fact of the matter is, you know how things do get in your brain and they go over and over? Well, I'm on a mission today that I want to put something in everyone's brain here that I hope every day you think about. I hope every day it might be the thing that wakes you up. I hope that every day that you will consider what the main purpose of this whole seminar is, and that is that there is hope. That there is hope. Because if there is one thing that is stripping our society of hope, that is the spread of mental illness and the hopelessness attached to it within our society. And I'm here as a living example that there is hope. And whether it's for you, or whether it's for someone you know, or whether it's for the person you might run into this coming week, because we have figures in our nation of things like, they're throwing around figures now, and it's amazing how easy they throw these figures around without attaching real life people to them. That 1 in 3 young people, that's astounding, is going to suffer with some type of mental illness, depression or mental illness. I believe that's an epidemic. I believe that qualifies it as an epidemic. And every single one of our lives is touched in some way by depression or mental illness. So I hope today that whether it's you or someone you know or someone that you haven't come across yet, by the end of today, you will know and be so confident in your heart that you can actually look to them and look at them and say, listen, there is hope. It might not be instant, things might not change straight away, but there is a hope for a brighter tomorrow and for a better day ahead. Is that cool? That's cool, because that's where I'm heading. And everything that we cover through these sessions is laced with hope. Because where hopelessness destroys millions of lives, hope rescues them. Hope rescues lives. So here's the plan of attack today. There's 8 steps I've identified in the book. And these are 8 steps that have led my life from a life of mental illness through to a life lived beyond mental illness. So we'll spend a bit of time on each of those steps as we go along. And afterwards, if you've got any questions, we will have a question and answer period at the end of the seminar. And that should be, hopefully that'll be fantastic. So please remember to write them down. My story. I honestly don't have time to go through all of it. And it's quite funny because people see me now, and I want to tell you, I live the best life ever. I'm married to an amazing woman. I have 4 fantastic children. I have the privilege in pastoring a terrific church. I have friends, I have happiness. Real happiness in my life. And I meet people and they look at me and I'm pretty sure that sometimes they think, well, you've never had a dark day in your life. And I look back and I go, oh boy, you don't know the half of it. Because where I can look at my life now, I still remember what it used to be like. And yes, some of it I remember as if it was lived by a different person, but I remember it. I remember the darkness and the consuming blackness that enveloped my life between the age of about 17 and 23. And it was about 22 that it led to the point where I tried to take my life. You can tell, can't you, that I still remember it. I remember the utter hopelessness. I remember the paranoia. I remember the nights spent sleepless, curled up in a fetal position on the corner of a bed, shaking, having all sorts of crazy hallucinations. Not drug-induced, just mind-induced. Hallucinations that weren't just a picture of watching something. They were hallucinations that I actually believed that I lived at the time. I managed to write some of the freakiest poetry you will ever read. But I remember one particular night when I actually wrote a very dark poem. And I still remember the scene in my room where blackness, if you've been there, you know that sometimes blackness is tangible. Sometimes darkness can envelop a life so strongly that it's just like it's actually physically touching you. And I remember one night in particular which led to, it was basically the night where I said, that's it, I cannot do this any longer. And within a couple of days I was driving a car towards a cliff. I can't tell you what sparked it. I actually don't know. Grew up in a fantastic home. My mum and dad are still soppily in love with each other, and which is wonderful. So I don't really know what sparked it, but it started to get very dark around the age of 17. The only thing I knew to dull the pain was to drink incredibly large amounts of alcohol, and I don't think it helped. In fact, I'm sure it didn't help. But I was one of those drunks that didn't get angry. You know, you see those drunks that get angry. I wasn't one of those. You know what I did when I got drunk? I fell asleep. And they would find me at the end of bars. They would find me at different places on trains that had gone right out to the end of the line and come all the way back, because it was the only way I could get my mind to stop, was to drink it till it just went numb. There is a better way. There is a far better way. And that's what we're here to talk about today. And I'm just thrilled. You know, the journey that I want to talk about today and the steps, then sometimes they're not quick. It did start. Sometimes things happen quickly, sometimes things take a lot longer. So today, as we're about to launch into my first step, someone sent me a text message the other day. It went something like this, and I wrote it down. It went something like this. It says, what we say is not measured by the words we find in a dictionary, but the heart behind the one who delivers them. And I pray and I hope today that you get my heart behind the words that I deliver. That's what I really hope. Because I believe that these things we talk about are truly life-changing. So step one, we're going to launch straight into step one. Step one is called the metamorphosis of the mind. Breaking the quick fix mentality. I don't know, does anyone have a favourite restaurant? I do. I've got a favourite restaurant. There's a favourite place I love to eat, even more than at home. And it's a really weird place because it's not one that you would think it was. And it's in a little town called Goulburn. And I get to go there a couple of times a year. And it's just like this old restaurant which has been owned since the day it was opened by the one European family, and they've owned it, and it's just been, and it's just like, it's old, the service is great. But I don't know about you, but when I go to a restaurant, I like to try different things. But this one I don't. I walk in, I sit down, and they say, do you want a menu? I say, yes, but it won't help. Because I know this restaurant is about 800 kilometres from my home, but as soon as I know I'm going to eat there, I'm already drooling. Because they do the most incredible pepper steak in the world. Now, if you're a vegetarian here today, that's fine. But if you tasted this pepper steak, you'd turn. I am that confident in this pepper steak that it is just the greatest meal. So I sit there and I order my pepper steak and I wait. And before long, at every moment I'm waiting, I'm imagining. Yeah, you can picture it, can't you, right? And the steak comes out and they place it in front of me. And as I cut into that first bit of steak, and it doesn't take much effort to cut. It's just so tender. And I put it in my mouth, and it's like my taste buds go into raptures. And they're bouncing all over my mouth just in a pure state of this steak that was touched with the dew of heaven. It's pretty nice anyway. But I think sometimes in life, see, it takes a while to prepare a pepper steak. I think sometimes in life, we especially in the Western culture, we get so trapped into the quick fix mentality, we expect a pepper steak on a fast food time frame. We expect things to happen in our lives and breakthroughs to happen in our lives and changes to happen in our lives like someone comes up and waves a magic wand and everything's fine. But it doesn't actually work that way. In fact, someone told me many years ago, things that are worth having are worth waiting for. And if you're going through the process of recovery from mental illness, it'll take time. I hope no one came here today expecting that I was going to wave a magic wand over them and they'd never have a bad thought again in their life. Because it's wrong. It's not true. It doesn't work that way. Some things change. There's a lot of misunderstanding, and there's a lot of misunderstanding in the Christian church about healing. We misquote scriptures and try and claim them when that's not when they're actually designed for. But I believe in healing. I've been healed of things instantly, and I've prayed for people and they've been healed instantly of things. But I've also been healed of things over a long period of time. Now we tend to think, well, what was wrong with your faith that you weren't healed straight away? Nothing. It was a process that God was leading me through in the development of character and eventual healing. And I'm hoping you'll get a better picture of that as we go along. I remember the day that I gave my heart to Christ, I had a physical pain in my chest that was instantly healed. I lived in such a state of paranoia and fear before coming to that point. The day that instantly the paranoia was taken away. Instantly. I never checked under another bed again. I never looked inside cupboards. And you've got to understand that before that day, when I walked into a room to go to sleep in that room, I would check under every bed. I would check in every cupboard. I would check behind things that you could not possibly hide behind for this fear and this dread that something or someone was there to do harm to my life. There was no logical reason why there would have been. But it was true, it was real to me. Very real to me indeed. But that disappeared. But other things took years. Years after coming to know Christ and having Christ in my life and being a Christ follower, I would still be on a high place and have a thought that would come into my brain saying, throw yourself off, you're not worth it. And it'd be left field. It'd come in and I'd go, and these thoughts used to devastate me and break me. And it took a long time. But I had a physical problem. Now, there's a quote that's going to come up on the screen by Dr. Martin Lloyd-Jones. Many Christian people, in fact, are in utter ignorance concerning this realm where the borderlines between the physical, psychological and spiritual meet. Frequently, I have found that such leaders had treated those whose trouble was obviously mainly physical or psychological in a purely spiritual manner. And if you do so, you not only don't help, you aggravate the problem. Romans chapter 12 verse 2, and as we go through I will use a lot of scripture, but I'm going to explain some of these verses as well as we go through. Romans chapter 12 verse 2. Do not be conformed any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Now that's a bit I want to look at, being transformed by the renewing of your mind. See, then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good and pleasing and perfect will. Transformed by the renewing of the mind. I want to just give you a little bit of idea what that actually means, because did you know the Bible wasn't actually written in English? You know, I know that doesn't fit in with us culturally, but it wasn't written in English, right? But when you pull the words apart a little bit, you actually see that the word transformed in this is the word metamorpho, which actually we get metamorphosis from, which is coming from one state and being turned through a process into another state. So, and the actual word there for renewing is the same word that we would get the word renovating from. Have you ever tried to renovate a house? If you have, you know it's not instant. It'd be nice if it was, but it's not instant. So we could actually read this verse in probably closer to how it was meant to be, is that we are to go through, do not be conformed any longer to the pattern of this world, but go through a metamorphosis, right, and a renovation into creating something completely new. So when with our minds need to go through a metamorphosis, which takes time. And I don't know if you know about renovating, but if you renovate, what do? You pull out a lot of old stuff and you stick in a lot of new stuff. That's pretty much it, you know. You pull out a lot of old stuff that you don't want anymore and you put in a lot of new stuff that you want to keep. Well, that's pretty much what we need to do with our mind. Very often we need to pull out a lot of the old stuff and put in some new stuff. So renovation is a case of tearing out and building in. And as we go through the next steps, we'll see about how to tear out things and how to build in other things that we'll have, the end result will be that we will reach a point of life beyond mental illness.